Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine a country defined not by, the usual frenetic rush you see across Asia, but more by the slow, deliberate curve of the mighty Mekong River,
Hmm.
a place where these incredible, preserved golden temples meet, while the graceful decay of French colonial architecture,
Hmm.
all nestled within these towering, lush, green mountains.
Yeah, it paints quite a picture.
It really does. So today, we are diving deep into Laos, a peaceful, culturally rich destination that honestly often gets overshadowed by its neighbors.
Right. And our mission today is really to give you the essential blueprint for visiting Laos, let's say, in 2026.
Mm.
This isn't just another travel guide, though.
Yeah.
We've actually pulled out a detailed breakdown of what the experience is truly like on the ground,
Mm.
where you absolutely must go, the actual itemized costs involved.
Which are key.
Absolutely key. And perhaps most critically, how this whole idea of slow tourism actually translates into, well, exceptional value, a great return on investment for the traveler who's looking for something specific.
Right.
So this deep dive is basically your shortcut to understanding the logistics, yes,
Right.
but also the enduring cultural heart of the whole Lao experience.
And that cultural heart is so important, isn't it? It provides this unique tension, maybe, or appeal that we really need to dig into throughout this deep dive.
Yeah.
Because while destinations like, say, Thailand or Vietnam, they're often synonymous with that high-octane pace, rapid development.
Right. Constant buzz.
Exactly. Laos offers something different. It's this profound serenity, this tranquility. It's almost specifically designed, it feels like, to keep you away from those overwhelming crowds. It's a country that kind of dictates the speed of your journey.
It really does set the pace for you.
Yeah. And throughout our discussion today, we'll be exploring four quite distinct geographic areas, from the spiritual north down to those lazy southern islands.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll use them to really gauge the price, both financial and maybe experiential, of embracing this slower pace.
And what's fascinating here, I think, is how the sources reveal just how dramatically diverse the geography is, even while it maintains that core ethos of slowness, as you put it.
Right.
We're looking at four completely different pillars of experience, really. You've got the spiritual immersion up north, then raw adventure in the center, a surprisingly quiet urban contrast in the capital.
Which is unusual.
Very unusual for the region. And then total, off-grid disconnection way down in the far south. So let's start with the anchor point, the place most people think of first.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so if you're putting together any kind of journey to Laos, Luang Prabang really has to be the essential first stop. It just anchors the entire experience, I think, and sets the cultural tone for the whole country.
Absolutely.
And this isn't just, a pretty town. It's a protected UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Which is crucial.
It is. And that means its unique sort of low-rise blend of these impeccably preserved gilded temples and that signature French colonial architecture. It's all set against the confluence of the Mekong and the Namkon rivers, and it's legally mandated to be preserved. That's the key.
Yeah, that UNESCO status is way more than just a plaque on a wall. It's a fundamental constraint, really, that dictates the whole atmosphere.
Huh.
It explains why this town feels so different from, say, other rapidly modernizing regional capitals.
Mm.
The physical architecture itself, those elegant old villas, the low-slung, sweeping temple roofs, it's all protected. And that maintains this visual continuity that just defines the town's rhythm.
And when we talk about this protected culture, I guess the key defining ritual has to be the almsgiving ceremony, the takbat, right, at dawn.
Oh, absolutely. Talk bad.
Calling it a key ritual feels like an understatement, but I think for you, the traveler listening, understanding how to participate ethically is just paramount. It's not simply a spectator sport, is it?
No, not at all. The sources really emphasize that this is a profound, serene, spiritual ritual. It's where the monks collect their daily food offerings from the community.
So how should people approach it?
Well, precisely because it's profound, if you choose to participate, you're essentially entering into a cultural contract.
No.
The sources stress, again and again, the need for extreme respect and following the proper protocol.
Which tourists often miss.
Unfortunately, yes. Often missed by tourists just looking for that quick photo opportunity.
Oh.
Women should have their shoulders and legs covered. That's basic. You must maintain a respectful distance, usually across the street from the procession path.
Okay.
And ideally, you should be sitting or kneeling so you're lower than the monks. That's a sign of respect.
And the offering itself.
You should purchase sticky rice
Yeah.
or maybe a small prepared offering before the ceremony starts. Not from vendors who might try to interrupt the procession itself. It seems small, But this act of respect, this mindfulness, it really sets the tone for your entire journey in Laos. It demands patience and reverence right from the start.
It's really interesting, though, how accessible this deep level of cultural immersion is, both spiritually, as you described, but also physically, financially.
Yeah.
Like, if you want that iconic panoramic view, the one, the curve of the river, the mist over the mountains, the glint of the temple roofs, you just hike up Mount Faosi.
Right, the viewpoint.
Yeah. And what's the cost for this defining, pretty breathtaking experience? It's minuscule, like $2 USD.
It's incredible, isn't it? And this extreme affordability, coupled with that UNESCO protection, it tells you a lot about the country's priorities, I think.
How so?
Well, the core cultural and spiritual wealth, it seems, is meant to be shared. It's not gate-kept by the economics of high-end tourism.
Yeah.
Just look at the entry fees for the major temples there, like Wat Thong.
Okay.
They only run about, what, $1 to $3 USD per entry? Compare that to major historical sites in Europe or even somewhere like Japan, and the difference is just stark. It's incredibly accessible.
And the practical cost, just the cost of living, really, or existing as a traveler in Luang Prabang, reinforce this accessibility too. You can eat incredibly well and incredibly cheap. You're sustaining yourself on high-quality food for very little.
Absolutely. Like if you dive into the famous night food markets, the one near the main street.
Yeah, I know the one.
You can find these delicious local snacks, fresh fruit shakes, amazing spring rolls, all for under $2. Easy.
Oh.
And then even a full, generous, traditional Lao meal, like larb or sticky rice, at a casual, well-regarded cafe, that'll only set you back maybe between $3 and $7.
That's amazing value.
It really is. Now let's drill down into the accommodation spectrum, because this is often where the bulk of the budget goes,
Oh, right, this is the big one.
The sources highlight that Luang Prabang really does cater to pretty much every comfort level. For the, let's say, most curious budget traveler, the guest houses are fantastic.
Yeah.
Often simple, but usually spotless, and run by local families. They run about $10 to $20 per night. That's an exceptional starting price for clean, comfortable lodging in a place like this.
$10?
Yeah. However, if you are drawn to that distinct French colonial charm, and maybe you're seeking a more boutique stay.
Yeah, something a bit nicer.
Exactly. You're probably looking at around $60 to $100 per night. But even at this higher range, if you compare it to similar quality in, say, Bali or Phuket.
No comparison.
Exactly. It's still very reasonable pricing, especially for a UNESCO-protected location.
Okay, so Luang Prabang really defines that experience. High culture, high spiritual value, but remarkably low entry costs. It sets a kind of budget anchor for the rest of the journey we're mapping out.
Precisely. It establishes the baseline value proposition. So moving south from that spiritual anchor in Luang Prabang, we hit Vang Vieng. And this area, well, it represents probably the most significant transformation narrative in modern Lao tourism. It's quite a story.
Yeah, I've heard about this, because for well over a decade, Vang Vieng was, let's be honest, notorious globally. It was the primary, completely unregulated backpacker party town.
Oh, absolutely infamous. Focused almost exclusively on, well, frankly, reckless river-based bar hopping and tubing.
Right. Tubing down the river, stopping at bars.
Exactly. But that scene, as the sources make extremely clear, is definitively gone, over, finished.
And what's fascinating here is how effectively the Lao government and the local authorities seem to have managed that pivot. It wasn't just shut down. It feels like it's shifted completely.
It has. It's shifted to become a structured, much more established adventure hub. The focus now is firmly on leveraging the incredible natural environment.
Which is stunning there.
Oh, it's spectacular. Specifically, those dramatic, towering limestone karst mountains. They provide this incredible scenic backdrop for organized and, crucially, safety-conscious adventure activities.
Okay, so what kind of activities are we talking about now?
Well, the activities reflect this new, let's call it, regulatory maturity. While river tubing does remain a classic activity, it's now a much more controlled experience. It's just one part of a wider adventure menu.
And the cost for tubing?
Still affordable. Tubing rental costs run about $4 to $7, something like that. But the real shift, the significant change, is towards other organized sports. Kayaking, mountain biking, zip lining, guided trekking tours.
Proper adventure stuff.
Proper adventure stuff. And these are professionally managed now with appropriate pricing. They range from maybe $20 up to $50 for a half-day or full-day tour. And this pricing structure itself, it confirms the shift towards a more sustainable, more organized tourism infrastructure. It's not the Wild West anymore.
But let me just push back on that a little bit. The sources describe Vang Vieng as an adventure hub, which sounds great. But how pervasive is any residual party culture? Is it completely gone? Is this new market of, say, $50, $80 mid-range resorts truly isolated from any lingering low-end backpacker scene? Does the whole slow pace of Laos get interrupted here?
That's a really crucial distinction to make, and a fair question. The sources suggest the isolation is largely successful, mainly because the infrastructure that supported the dangerous activities was physically removed.
Oh, okay.
The riverside bars, the dangerous rope swings, the zip lines strung up by amateurs, they're gone. So while Vang Vieng certainly remains a young, energetic place, you still have lots of younger travelers. The underlying risks associated with the old scene have been drastically mitigated by regulation and enforcement.
So the type of traveler has shifted too.
To a large extent, yes. The travelers seeking genuine adventure, exploring caves, rock climbing, hiking through those karsts, they are now the majority. They're drawn by that stunning vertical landscape, not just cheap booze.
And beyond the water activities, that vertical landscape offers some incredible, accessible exploration, right? Like caves.
Oh, absolutely. You can really immerse yourself in raw nature there. You can explore specific sites like the stunning Tam Chang Cave. It's accessible via this little orange toll bridge and then a short hike up some steps. And once again, that theme of accessibility reigns supreme. The entry fee for the cave, minimal, like $2 to $3. You're paying practically nothing to immerse yourself in millennial-old geology and explore these cool underground rivers and caverns.
It keeps coming back to that value, doesn't it?
It really does. And the current lodging reality in this new Vang Vieng, this adventure hub, also reflects the destination's maturity. While budget hostels definitely still exist, you can find dorms starting at $10 or maybe slightly more.
Okay.
The strong presence of mid-range resorts, places running around $50 to $80 a night, signals a clear market segmentation. It reinforces the idea that Vang Vieng isn't solely for the absolute lowest budget traveler anymore.
Right.
It successfully caters now to those seeking, quality amenities and structured safety alongside their daily dose of adrenaline. It's actually a remarkable case study in how a destination can successfully and quite deliberately reclaim its identity.
From party town to adventure hub. Okay, that makes sense. All right, so our journey now takes us further south to Vientiane. Now, when people mentally prepare for visiting a Southeast Asian capital, thinking Bangkok, Hanoi, maybe Jakarta, they anticipate this intense, nonstop buzzing chaos.
Yeah, sensory overload usually.
Totally. But Vientiane is dramatically different. The sources paint it as a quiet capital city. It has this genuinely relaxed vibe. It stands in such stark contrast, feeling far more manageable and, dare I say, peaceful.
It really does. And the sources offer some clues as to why it's so much calmer. Historically, Vientiane functioned more as an administrative and cultural center rather than becoming this massive national engine of commerce and rapid urbanization, unlike some of its neighbors.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, this historical context and the fact that key administrative centers actually moved around Laos at different times means it just never developed that immense, sprawling, sometimes overwhelming chaos that you associate with, say, Bangkok. It really does allow you to breathe a bit.
Yet, it still holds some vital urban landmarks that, you probably should see if you're there.
Oh, definitely.
The most famous is probably the iconic Follow Tenement, that Luang Stupa. It's that massive gold structure, a national symbol, and again, entry cost, only about $1 USD.
Incredible.
Yeah. And then there's the Patuxai Victory Monument. It's sometimes nicknamed the Vertical Runway.
Right, because the concrete was originally intended for a new airport runway, wasn't it? Bit of trivia there.
Exactly. And then evenings, they seem to be defined by the Riverside Night Market, which sounds like a great low-pressure way to just absorb the local atmosphere and find some affordable, authentic street food.
Absolutely. And the affordability of just daily urban life there, it mirrors what we saw up north and in the Adventure Zone. Local dishes at street stalls or simple restaurants. You're looking at only $2 to $5. Eating out every day is incredibly cheap. And budget accommodation is equally accessible. You can find decent places ranging from $15 up to maybe $40 for something a bit nicer. Crucially, even though you're in the nation's capital, you're avoiding that expected big city premium price tag.
And getting around. Is it a nightmare like other capitals?
Not really. Transport seems minimal, partly because the city is relatively compact and quite manageable on foot, especially the core areas. Or you take short rides.
Like tuk-tuks?
Yeah, short tuk-tuk rides are the standard.
Huh.
You generally negotiate the price, but they'll only cost a minimal $1 to $3 for most journeys within the central part of the city. So this urban environment, it doesn't drain your budget, And it doesn't drain your energy either.
Which is a huge selling point, I imagine, for travelers who might be intimidated by the sheer scale of some of those larger Asian capitals.
Exactly. It's capital city elite, in a way.
Hmm.
So if Vientiane represents the relaxed urban experience, we then need to shift our geographical focus entirely way down to the extreme south for total disconnection. And that's Si Phan Don, or the 4,000 Islands.
Mm.
This is where that concept of slow tourism that we keep talking about really reaches its absolute zenith.
4,000 islands. It sounds amazing. So this is the destination for people seeking genuine, off-the-grid, really laid-back river life.
That's exactly it. You are literally immersed in the vast Mekong River, surrounded by these tiny, tranquil river islands. There are stunning waterfalls nearby, like Pha Pheng, they sometimes call it the Niagara of Asia.
Wow.
And incredibly, you also have the presence of the rare freshwater Irrawaddy dolphins in that area. So the whole experience there is really focused on quiet observation, on tuning into the natural rhythm of the river rather than, structured activities or sightseeing checklists.
And the lodging reflects that, I assume. Rustic.
Very much so. The lodging here reflects that rustic, unplugged charm. This is where you find those truly budget, really immersive options, like simple bamboo hammock bungalows.
Hammock bungalows.
Yeah, literally bungalows with hammocks on the porch overlooking the river, starting as low as $8 to $15 per night.
$8.
Yeah. Now, we're talking basic amenities, obviously, but often with just unparalleled riverside views. You can, of course, upgrade to a cleaner, maybe slightly more solid riverside guest house for up to $40. But the core appeal down there is the simplicity. It's the lack of necessity for constant modern comfort.
And how do you get around these islands? There aren't roads, right?
Pretty much no major roads, no cars on the main tourist islands like Don Det or Don Con. Getting around maintains that slow pace. Bike rentals are the dominant mode of transport. They're the most efficient and honestly the most enjoyable way to explore locally.
And costs.
Only about $5 per day for a basic bicycle. If you want to explore the river itself, maybe go looking for those dolphins, boat tours are available for a manageable $10 to $15 per person, usually.
Okay.
So it really reinforces Si Phan Don's role as the ideal spot for just disconnecting entirely from the fast-paced, high-density tourism you might find elsewhere. It's truly about letting the river dictate your schedule. Slow living defined.
Sounds idyllic, actually.
Okay, so we've sort of established the geography, the feel of these different places, and touched on the specific, often very low costs across the country. Everything from $2 temples to $15 hammock bungalows.
Yeah, the numbers are pretty striking.
They really are. So now let's try to synthesize that budget for you, the listener, the learner, but with some essential nuance. Because we stated a mid-range traveler budget earlier, but let's define the extremes a bit more.
Okay, right. We established that overall daily budget for the mid-range traveler is remarkably affordable. We said generally falling between $30 and $60 USD per person per day. That includes accommodation, food, local transport, basic activities.
Exactly. But let's break down what separates the low end of that range, the $30 mark, from the higher end, the $60 mark.
Yeah, what choices make that difference?
Well, hitting that $30 a day target requires some pretty strategic choices. It means sleeping exclusively in those budget guest houses we mentioned, the $10, $15 range. It means eating predominantly at night markets and small local stalls, which is delicious, by the way, but keeping your food costs down to maybe $5, $10 for 3 meals a day.
Totally doable.
Absolutely. And relying heavily on the cheaper, albeit slower, public buses for longer distances or rented bicycles for local transport, this $30 level is definitely achievable without sacrificing the quality of the core experience or the food. You just have to be mindful.
Okay, so what about the $60 a day budget? What does that get you?
Right, the $60 a day level that offers significantly more comfort and convenience. This probably involves staying in some of the nicer mid-range resorts, maybe in Vang Vieng, or those charming boutique guest houses in Luang Prabang that edge towards the $40, $50 per night mark.
Makes sense.
It allows for taking the occasional nicer cafe meal, perhaps joining an organized trekking or kayaking tour, which might cost $30, $40 itself. And crucially, using more expensive but time-saving transportation options, like maybe private tuk-tuks for longer local journeys or, and this is critical, the new infrastructure element we have to discuss, the train.
Ah, yes, the train.
And that brings us squarely to the single most important logistical factor for planning a trip to Laos in 2026. This is something that was completely absent from travel guides just a few years ago.
Right.
And that is the Laos-China Railway, usually just called the LCR.
Okay, explain the LCR. How has it changed things?
It has completely revolutionized north-south travel logistics within Laos. Before the LCR opened, The main mode of long-distance transport between major centers was the bus.
Right, the long, winding bus journeys.
Exactly. And due to the mountainous terrain and, frankly, the condition of some roads, the journey between, say, Vientiane and Luang Prabang could take a grueling 10 to 12 hours, sometimes longer.
Yeah.
It was the quintessential definition of slow travel, maybe not always in a good way.
Right, forced slow travel.
Precisely. Now, with the LCR, you have the option of speed, real speed. This high-speed railway has cut the travel time between those two major tourist hubs, Vientiane and Luang Prabang, from over 10 hours by bus down to a mere 2 hours by train.
2 hours, that's incredible.
It's an absolute game changer, especially for time-conscious travelers or people on shorter trips.
But there must be a trade-off, right? Cost, experience.
Of course. As always, cost and experience. The long-distance buses, they remain the undisputed budget champion. They're still very cheap. Sometimes you can get that Vientiane Luang Prabang route for under $10.
Oh.
The LCR, however, requires a premium for that speed and comfort. While it's still affordable by Western standards, the train tickets cost significantly more than the bus. You're looking at approximately $20 to $40 for that same route, depending on the class of travel you choose.
Okay, so $10 bus versus maybe $30 train.
Exactly. So the traveler now has a very clear choice. Is that $10, $30 saving worth spending an extra 8 to 10 hours, potentially quite uncomfortably, on a winding bus? For you, the listener planning a trip, the LCR fundamentally changes your travel strategy. It allows you to potentially maximize your time in the destinations themselves, rather than losing entire days just to transit.
But does this new speed compromise that whole slow ethos we talked about, the thing that defines Laos? Does it change the feel of the country?
That's the subtle psychological question, isn't it? I think the sources suggest that the pace within the cities and towns themselves remains slow. Life hasn't suddenly sped up in Luang Prabang because the train arrived.
Oh, okay.
But the journey between them can now be fast, if you choose, and pay for it. Once you arrive, local exploration still relies heavily on traditional, slower means. Tuk-tuks are still everywhere for getting around town. Motorbike rentals are popular.
And the cost for those?
Still low, $5 to $15 generally, depending on how far you're going or if you're renting for a full day. And domestic flights are still an option, especially for massive time savings getting down south, like to Paxi for Si Phan Don.
Right.
But they're much pricier, running around $50 to $100 per flight, typically. So that represents a significant bite out of that daily budget if you take several.
So the basic infrastructure within towns keeps local costs low.
Exactly. But this new high-speed backed on the LCR, it allows for a higher overall travel throughput across the country's main axis. And this provides the traveler with a new degree of control over the speed, and therefore the cost and style, of their journey. A control that simply didn't exist before 2026.
Interesting. More choices, more decisions to make.
Okay, let's shift back, maybe one last time, to the cultural heartbeat of the country. Because ultimately, that's where the true enduring value of a trip to Laos lies, regardless of whether you took the fast train or the slow bus to get there.
Good point.
Laos isn't just cheap, it's genuinely immersive. It almost demands participation, doesn't it?
Yeah, it feels like it. We've touched on the almsgiving ceremony, that quiet, respectful participation. But let's talk about community interaction through festivals. They seem to be truly the lifeblood of the nation, based on the sources.
Oh, absolutely. And the prime example here, the biggest one, is Pai Mai. That's the Lao New Year, celebrated in mid-April, usually.
Okay, Pai Mai. What's involved?
Well, Pai Mai is so much more than just a public holiday. It's a massive multi-day national celebration. It involves huge water fights, think Songkran in Thailand, but perhaps a bit more local flavor.
Right, water fights.
Yeah. Plus, dancing in the streets, formal processions, and also really important spiritual cleansing rituals, like washing Buddha images.
And what truly defines the value here for the traveler?
The key thing is that these activities are absolutely free to join. You are not just an observer watching from the sidelines. You are actively encouraged, even expected, to step in and partake in this genuine community interaction.
So people will just throw water on you.
Oh, yeah. You will get wet. You're expected to get wet, dance along, share in the general goodwill and celebration. This level of authentic, unscripted engagement, it's extremely rare to find in high-volume tourist destinations these days. It's real.
That sounds amazing. And when you want to maybe take a piece of that culture home, not just memories, souvenirs.
Right, the craft markets. They offer excellent sourcing for genuine handmade textiles. The weaving in Laos is incredible, plus wood carvings, silverwork, things like that.
And prices. Still reasonable.
Generally, yes. Because of the local economy and the focus on traditional crafts over mass production, these items are usually reasonably priced. You can find beautiful things sitting comfortably between, say, $5 and $20 for smaller items or scarves.
Okay.
You aren't just buying generic tourist trinkets here. The courses confirm you are often directly supporting local artisans and helping to preserve these intricate textile traditions that go back centuries. It feels more meaningful.
Yeah, definitely. So, okay, we've accounted for, well, pretty much every dollar, it feels like, from the spiritual north to the lazy south, factoring in these revolutionary new transportation options. Now we need to bring it all together. The final nuanced verdict. Is Laos worth it in 2026?
It's the big question, and I think the answer hinges entirely on your expectations as a traveler. The sources are very clear on this. For travelers who are craving tranquility, who want rich, accessible culture, stunning natural beauty, and a high degree of authenticity, and crucially, who are perfectly willing to embrace the occasional infrastructure challenge and that overall deliberate, slower pace,
Yeah,
for those people, Laos is unequivocally worth it.
absolutely. It rewards patience and curiosity with some really profound experiences.
Okay, so who is it not for? Who might be disappointed?
Conversely, if you are expecting, say, fast-paced, highly polished tourism like you might find in Singapore or maybe even parts of Thailand now,
Mm-hmm.
if you expect globalized infrastructure everywhere or high-end luxury at every single turn, then Laos might feel understated, maybe even a bit rustic in places based on our source material. You have to consciously adjust your expectations away from that highly developed, seamless, maybe predictable experience you get elsewhere. It's just different.
So the value proposition ultimately is immense, but conditional. It's exactly.
Yeah.
Laos offers meaningful structured adventure like we saw in Vang Vieng, and this unique spiritual warmth, especially in Luang Prabang. Its overall affordability, that ability to exist comfortably on $30 to $60 a day, combined with this widespread cheap access to truly breathtaking landscapes, makes its value incredibly high if you're seeking that authentic cultural connection.
Yeah.
It's a place that kind of asks you to disconnect from speed, doesn't it? To really connect with the environment and the people around you. #tag outro.
Wow, okay. That was quite a deep dive. I feel like we've really mapped out the essential knowledge now, from the mandated cultural preservation of Luang Prabang and the adventurous evolution of Vang Vieng to the surprisingly laid-back capital of Vientiane and that pure disconnection you can find way down in the 4,000 islands. Laos remains, I think, without question, a really unique gem in Southeast Asia.
Agreed. Offering staggering natural beauty and immense cultural depth, all at a really unmatched value point still.
And that value, as we've discussed, it seems intrinsically tied to that slower pace. A pace that's now, interestingly, being challenged by modernity, by things like the new train.
Yeah, the tension is there now.
It is. We've seen that the mid-range traveler can comfortably get by on $30 to $60 a day. Yet new infrastructure like the LCR can cut travel time by, 80%?
Right.
But it demands a higher expenditure.
Right.
So given the availability now of both the extreme affordability of slow transport, that $10 bus, and the convenience of rapid, modern train travel, the $30 train, maybe here's something for you, the listener, to consider as you plan your own journey.
Okay.
How might that choice, the choice between the $10 bus and the $30 train, fundamentally change your personal approach? Not just to travel budgeting, but to the quality and type of experience you have in Laos.
That's a great final thought. It's the ultimate trade-off, isn't it? Time saved versus budget preserved, and maybe even a different kind of travel experience embraced. Fascinating. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the blueprint for Laos in 2026.
Yeah, we hope you feel thoroughly prepared or at least inspired for your journey.